I'm Gabby.
I'm Daniel.
And we own Branch Out. You can see the logo behind us. If you hear weird noises, we just closed shop. So our staff is here and they're cleaning and they're making noise. So we apologize if you hear any background noise. So let's go over a little bit about who we are and why we started this crazy thing. I'm originally from Southern California and I married this crazy guy.
Yeah, I was born and raised here.
And in 2011, we ended up becoming vegetarian and we realized that Paducah had no options of places to eat. So I started learning how to cook, following recipes online and trying different things and sharing it with people. And then eventually people started asking where they could buy our food. And
one thing led to another until we decided in April of 2016 to finally pursue it.
And so we ended up in summer of 2016. Some of you might have been our followers then. We sold at the farmer's market here downtown, and it was an eye-opening experience. We learned a whole lot. Selling in a farmer's market in the heat of the summer, you learn a lot. We were renting the kitchen at the college and it wasn't financially viable for us. So we decided to look for our own space.
And then in, I say late November, we ended up having our small space in the Ritz. We kind of worked that out, and then we opened up in late March.
Yeah, and if any of you had eaten at our place at the Ritz, we only had 4 tables. It was very cramped. I can't imagine during COVID what kind of things we would have to go through. It was rough, but we did learn even more there. Since neither of us had a lot of restaurant experience, we were learning trial by fire. And then we ended up knowing we needed a bigger space. So we were starting to look for a larger space and decided to, after our 1-year lease ended at the Ritz, we started selling a farmer's market again. We had found this space that we're at currently right down the street from the library at the old Branch Cycle building, but it was needing a lot of work. They had to start from scratch. So while that was going on, we sold at the farmer's market again. Some of you might have remembered the long lines to get our food because that was the only place you could get it. And then we were given the opportunity to do a pop-up at the old D Starnes down by the river. And that was an experience as well. We didn't have a kitchen, so we had a separate kitchen. And then finally we opened up this place in May of 2019. And here we are. It's been an experience to get here.
We're looking all over the place.
Yeah, and we really realized that we were needed here because we not only make vegan and vegetarian food, but we also do different cuisines from around the world and do different flavor profiles that a lot of people in this area are not used to. So yeah, so that's kind of basically who we are. So this is a plant-based 101. So we're gonna go over a little bit about what plant-based eating is. Plant-based basically means that you do not eat anything from an animal. So no meat, no dairy, no eggs, but it is different from a vegan. Vegans have a lot of other reasons why they've decided to eat this way. Plant-based is often more on the health side. Vegans are often the ones who decide to completely stay away from all animal products. So leather, gelatin, honey. And then vegetarian is somebody who doesn't eat meat, but they do eat eggs and dairy. Pescatarian, they only eat fish. So there's a lot of different kinds of food. But for here at our business, we're completely plant-based. So there's no meat, no dairy, no egg. We don't do anything necessarily derived from animals. So we don't do anything that contains honey.
And I mean, even down to, you don't even think about it, but we use like bone char-free sugar. So it's one of those things that a lot of people don't even think about. Some things that can hide some animal product into.
So things that's in the filtering process for sugar. So some people who have allergies like alpha-gal, the tick bite that makes it so that you can't eat red meat. Sometimes if you're really sensitive, they can't have any bone char sugar. So we have a lot of things that we think about that most people don't have to think about. It also makes it a little more difficult to find those items and to supply them, especially during COVID. So if you are one of our regulars, you probably were missing out on certain items like our fish tacos or something like that. And it's because we need weird things for our food. So why would you want to go plant-based? So we think that healthy is different for everybody, and your healthy is different than my healthy is different than their healthy. So here is plant-based, but you don't have to be plant-based to eat here. So we just want to make sure you know that. So
it's just like another type of food. It's like the same way you look at a Mexican place or a Chinese place or a Greek place. I mean, it's just a plant-based.
yeah, so we just want to be another option that you just think, oh, well, I want to eat plant-based today. So a couple of things, like for health. So some people decide to go plant-based because they have high cholesterol, which cholesterol is only found in animal products. So you might want to be trying to lower your cholesterol, and you decide to eat plant-based once a week or a couple times a week to help with your cholesterol. It often encourages you to eat more fruits and veggies, grains. They find that it helps with lowering your chance of cancer. Eating less red meat and processed meat is really good for, they're saying that that's a carcinogen. So just having an option that isn't those things might help you a little bit. Some people go plant-based for the planet. If you eat plant-based, you're cutting your carbon footprint by 50%. And then also the meat and dairy industry uses a third of the Earth's fresh water. So that's just something to think about. And then sometimes, you got to think about your wallet. So plant-based proteins, not thinking about, the ones on the market like Beyond Meat or Impossible or the processed meat, but just the lentils and beans and whole grains can be a little cheaper than meat, especially during what, we had to deal with COVID. So, there you go on that. And then some people do it for the animals. That's often, sometimes they do it on the vegan side, but some people who also do it for animals on plant-based side, if you commit to eating meat-free 1 day a week, you can save about 28 land animals and 175 aquatic animals per year. Of course, as an average, some people eat less or more, but that just gives you an idea of some general information. The way we decided to go vegetarian, because we eat vegan now, but in 2011, we watched a documentary called Forks Over Knives. It's on Netflix, and it is just a good informational. It doesn't try and shove anything down your throat. It just informs you about maybe why you'd want to maybe eat a little more plant-based. Another good documentary, if you're interested, What the Health on Netflix as well, which just discusses food as medicine and the pharmaceutical industry. And then if you're an athlete or you are very active, you might want to look at Game Changers, which is another documentary on Netflix, specifically about eating plant-based as an athlete. So that's a little bit of homework if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that. We want to talk about eating plant-based without it being scary. So a lot of people think about tofu or how I'm still going to be hungry, or I don't know how to make any of this stuff. What we kind of want to do is explain the easiest way to do plant-based for you.
A lot of people, once you try to do something plant-based, everybody has in their mind, I need a protein, I need a starch, and I need a vegetable. And eating plant-based is completely turned upside down. Yeah. On that.
It was very difficult for us in the beginning to figure out how to do a plate because we were just used to a piece of chicken, maybe some steamed broccoli and mashed potatoes or something. And so for us, the easiest way we found was just making bowls. And that is something that we do a lot at the restaurant. They sell well because it's a full meal that is going to keep you full for a long time. And at home, it's also a great way to cook for yourself and your family. So the way that we, in between businesses, when we were opening and closing and farmers market, and our favorite way of eating, I often call it like the Korean style of eating. So in Korean cuisine, they often do one main small meat dish, and then they have a bunch of items called banchan, which is small side dishes that they eat with it. So you just get rid of the meat part and you just eat with the banchan. And that's actually a Korean bibimbap, basically. And so basically what you can do is have 3 or 4 items in your fridge, and that day you end up making just one item, and you put together all those other items you already had prepped in the fridge, and it makes it a lot easier to eat that way. It was for us.
And a good thing too, a lot of this stuff lasts you up to a week in the fridge. So you can have that for mix and match for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
And so So we wanted to go over a couple of our bowls at the restaurant to help you kind of understand how we break it down and why it's easy to make your own bowls once you learn the basics of what makes a good bowl. So I'm gonna use, so if you can see here, this is our falafel bowl. So we have falafel, cauliflower, cucumber, and it's delicious. But I wanna go over the reason why it's delicious. So things that you really need to take into consideration is the 5 things that you should have in your bowls when you make it. So you got to think of a protein, something pickled, something fresh, something cooked, and a sauce. So in the falafel bowl, the falafel themselves are the protein. So if you don't know what falafel is, it's just chickpeas, parsley, green onions, cilantro, garlic, a couple of spices. We blend it up and then we deep fry it. It's really high in protein, and when explaining it to a lot of people, we just call it like a
Middle Eastern hush puppy.
Yes, and it's very high protein. And of course, you've probably seen it in pita. You can eat it with pita bread. You can put it in salads, and it's good cold and hot. The pickled on this one is our pickled cabbage. It's just pickled red cabbage, and there's a recipe for it on those papers. We'll go over that. Fresh on this bowl is the cucumber. So you always got to try and have something fresh in here. The cooked is our roasted cauliflower. But you can do any kind of vegetable, do a big pan of roasted veggies and eat off of it for the entire week. And then here's the sauce of the red pepper tahini sauce. And we'll go over that in the recipe part. But in those things, making sure you have a protein, something pickled, something fresh, something cooked, and a sauce, you can basically mix and match in multiple different ways to make something really filling and delicious. Also, we sneak extra protein underneath this. We have lentils underneath here. And this is on a bed of greens. You can do it on rice,
quinoa,
any kind of grain you want. If you're doing low carb, veggies is always a good option. You can do it on like massage kale salad or just regular greens. Just do whatever works out for your taste buds.
The biggest reason why we always look to do these different things is because while you're eating a bowl and you mix it all up, you're getting something different in every bite. So nothing ever gets boring. It's not a one-tone thing. So it's not like, oh, I have a hamburger with mustard ketchup. You're not going to get the same flavor over and over again. Each time you get a bite, you get a little fresh, you get a little pickled, you might get a little fried. If you got the falafel, you get a little roasted for the cooked veggies. So it just keeps everything interesting.
Yeah, and the balance works really well that way. And if you're new to eating plant-based, like say you're doing a meatless Monday or different things like that, it might be difficult for your taste buds to change. It takes a little bit of time, but this is a great way to try it. You got to keep it interesting because you don't want to get bored with it. So I had mentioned before eating Korean style. So bibimbap, and this item has a lot more items. This is a more advanced bowl. So for our protein, we have tofu, and that scares a lot of people. We're gonna go over it. Tofu is not scary. It's one of the cheapest proteins that you can get.
And it's a great flavor bomb because it soaks up anything you marinate it with.
Yes. So we'll go over a little bit on how to do that. This also has pickled daikon and carrots. Now, daikon is something you probably don't know about because they don't sell it everywhere, or you might have just looked over it at Kroger. But it's an Asian vegetable that holds pickled vinegar really well. Fresh, we've got cucumber. We've got an Asian kale slaw, which is just like a massage spicy kale salad. And then we have green onions. So we like fresh green onions in this bowl. And then also we've got the cooked, which is the shiitake mushrooms. And we have some bean sprouts. And the shiitake mushrooms, they're expensive, but they're worth it. So
there's one thing that, before going plant-based, I mean, I knew there was other mushrooms, but I never really paid much attention to it. I was just like, oh, the button mushrooms are community mushrooms. But the mushroom is like the steak of the plant-based world.
Yes.
You can get anything from lion's mane to the shiitake to
Oysters.
and they all have different flavors.
And textures.
A mushroom isn't just a mushroom. I mean, that's like, it opens up a whole world of possibilities.
And shiitake is a flavor bomb in umami. So the way we do this is not in the recipe, but if you're more advanced and I just tell you this recipe, you might be able to do it yourself. Basically, we just slice it, a little soy sauce, a little sesame oil, massage it, make sure the moisture gets out. Oven 400 degrees for like 20 minutes. You want it a little crunchy. You can do it a little bit longer for mushroom bacon, which is my favorite thing on pizza. But there you go, an extra recipe that's not in there. But yeah, so this bowl is a little more advanced, super delicious. It's got a spicy sauce in the middle. It's called gochujang. And if you like spice, this is the bowl for you. You can actually get this sauce at Kroger in the Asian section, and it adds so much to everything. So that does a lot of things. We had a couple of extra, kimchi. I forgot kimchi. That's really important in Korean food. It adds pickled and probiotics, which are good for your gut bacteria. So instead of eating yogurt, you can get kimchi, which in my opinion tastes better. But yeah, so that covers the tofu is the protein. We have the daikon and carrots and kimchi as the pickled. We had the fresh cucumber, the Asian kale slaw, and the green onions for the fresh. We had the shiitake and the bean sprouts for the cooked, and the gochujang for the sauce. So then you can mix it all together. It's best with rice, in our opinion. And it's just so much flavor in every bite, and it keeps it very interesting. A little spicy, a little sweet. And then the last bowl we're going to go over today is our Greek gyro bowl. So we're going to go over a couple things. Now, this isn't talked about necessarily in any of the recipes, but the main protein for this is an item called soy curls. And it's basically like elevated tofu that we marinate in vegan sour cream and a bunch of other flavors.
I will say that if you are going plant-based, you'll see a lot of things that are plant-based, like sour cream, a lot of substitutes that you see. That can get very expensive.
Yes.
Overall. So if you are looking to do it on a budget, you can do it really cheap, but it's going to require just a lot of fresh produce, beans, things like that. If you're looking to get that substitute of a meat, you're going to probably end up spending more than you would on the actual meat item.
So basically, we got a couple of different proteins in this bowl. We have the soy curls. We have hummus, which is what everybody thinks of as the vegan option at any party. And then we also have chickpeas in this salad. So we got a lot of protein in this bowl. The pickle, you see the red cabbage again. That is a recurring theme in a lot of our bowls because we just absolutely adore it. The fresh item, we have fresh herbs on top, and then we also have the Greek salad, which is in the recipe box paper. We'll go over that. And then for sauce, we actually have two on here, hummus and tzatziki, which is a complicated sauce. We'll go over that in some other time. But and then the cooked, we have a piece of pita, and the soy curls. So hummus is always an awesome sauce to put in a bowl. If you don't have time, you don't want to make something from scratch. You can loosen it up a little bit with a little extra lemon juice and put it over something, or just leave it in the bowl and mix it in there. Adds a lot of extra protein and flavor and moisture.
It's also good as a spread.
Sandwiches, yeah. And you can do like a quick chickpea salad with it. If you really want extra protein, put some veggies in there. One of our old salads that we used to do is a curry chickpea salad, which had chickpeas and carrots and raisins and cashews, and we added a little curry powder and lemon juice. And we had that as a sandwich when we were at the Ritz. Super high protein. Yeah, so, and olives. Forgot about the olives. He loves olives. But if you like olives, those are always a good option to throw in a bowl. So yeah, this is kind of like another option that we could go over on that. So we're gonna go over a little bit of the recipe. They should have given you a link on that. So the quick pickled cabbage is super easy. Just buy a head of cabbage, shred it yourself, and all you're gonna need is some vinegar, garlic, sugar, salt, bay leaves, and basically you mix it all up. You can leave it in your fridge for up to, let's see, I think we said a month.
Yeah.
And you can refill it with fresh cabbage as you finish it. And the flavor is still amazing. It's super bright, and this cabbage can be put on anything in any bowl. And if you even want to use the brine for red onions, we also do that in a few of our bowls as well. Honestly, always have this in your fridge at all times because you can always throw it in something. And red cabbage is so good for you. And it adds a lot of color. That's one thing we eat with our eyes. And adding this bright purple cabbage to anything will definitely get your mind thinking that looks delicious. I want to eat that. So
I mean, a big thing you hear a lot in the community is you try to eat the rainbow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at a bowl and you see all the different colors, you know there's a lot of vitamins and nutrients in there that you're going to get, that your body will need, and also makes it very delicious.
yes. So yeah, so I list on here a couple of things. With the pickled onions, we like to add mustard seeds or peppercorns. We also recommend that you maybe invest in a spice bag so you don't end up having to pick out bay leaves from your cabbage, which happens to us sometimes. It's just not very tasty. So the other recipe that I have listed on here is our roasted veggie blend. So I'll go over that specifically because it's a little, I don't know if I made sense on that. But for this recipe, we just do onion powder, garlic powder, and nutritional yeast. Now, that sounds weird. It's not the yeast that you use to bake bread with. It is a vegan staple that we can't live without. So it makes a lot of food cheesy. It makes it umami. You can add it to anything to make it taste amazing. We use it in our cashew cheese. We use it in our fry flour that we do our onion rings in. We just use it in a lot of stuff. It also has B12 in it. So a lot of vegans who don't eat animal products, that's the one vitamin that they don't have. So B12 is something that you can get naturally from fortified nutritional yeast. You can get it at Kroger in a yellow container that has brags on it. It's useful in every aspect that you can possibly think. But in here, we do equal parts onion powder, garlic powder, and nutritional yeast. So if you're just doing a small amount, you can just do a tablespoon of each one or a cup of each one. It doesn't matter. You can just mix them together and use them on different roasted vegetables. So for our cauliflower specifically, we have a big bowl of cauliflower. We do a little bit of oil. We use canola, but you can use whatever oil you want. You want a high smoke point, nothing like extra virgin olive oil. It might get a little burnt in the oven. And then sprinkle that on top. Mix, mix, mix. Salt and pepper, taste it. So that's what we do a lot of here. We don't do a lot of specific recipes because it could be a specific amount of cauliflower, a different vegetable, needs more salt, needs less. And just remember, don't over salt it. It's a lot easier to fix if you don't have, if you put too much of it, it's a lot more difficult to fix. So you want a lot of flavor. So we put a lot. The cauliflower before it goes into the oven is bright yellow. And then you put it in the oven at about 400 degrees. It can be anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. Depending on how hot your oven runs. And you can do it with things like cauliflower, carrots, broccoli won't be in there as long, but I've done it and it's very good. Potatoes, white potatoes, sweet potatoes, those are really good with that. And Brussels sprouts. What you can do is a big sheet pan and just throw it in your fridge and then use as needed. Here at the business, we make a big amount multiple times a week. And then we rewarm it in a nonstick skillet with a little bit of oil. And it still has all that flavor. Still, we do it a little still crunchy, so it doesn't get mushy. But yeah, it's definitely our favorite recipe for almost all our roasted veggies.
And that's a good thing too. Is like when you roast these veggies, you can stick them in your fridge for up to 4 to 5 days and use it for all the different flavors.
So, and get creative. You can think of other weird things you can put in there that I haven't listed. I look forward to hearing about that. Our other recipe that we have listed, the quick Greek salad. So this is a nice one to also have in your fridge to throw in everything. Daniel really loves this salad.
Yeah, it's great on if you just have some spring mix or anything along that line. If you just put a bed of that, throw that on top of it, and put dressing on it, it gives it a lot more flavor and it's quick. So that's the one thing I like. If you're not wanting an in-depth big bowl and you just want like a small salad to eat for like a snack or just something quick, that's a good way to get it.
And it's a lot of things that people already have probably in their house or can get very easily. So on here we just have some chickpeas, tomatoes, cucumber, red onion, lemon, parsley, and salt and pepper. We have a rough estimate on that. But yet again, you want to taste your food as you make it. You want small cubes when you dice it, but not too small. But once you figure out what works for you, for us, we do the other side.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
But yeah, like if you're familiar with pico de gallo, you want it a little bigger than that. But we have vegan feta that pairs really well with that. Get some fresh olives, put that together, and it makes a really good meal. You can do it on salads, in your pita, bread, sandwiches, all sorts of goodies. And that is actually only on our Hero Bowl, and we do sometimes sell it in small containers, but I mean, honestly, you can just make it at home. Not good business for us, but might save you a little money, and once you learn that recipe, you can use it a lot at home. So sauce. So we've gone over the pickles, the cooked, the fresh, which is the Greek salad. So we're gonna go over the sauce. So the red pepper tahini sauce, we shared this recipe at the Women's Expo before COVID.
January.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, feels like forever ago. And this is a blender sauce. Tahini, some of you might not know what it is. It is a very high protein sesame paste that adds a lot of like umami and richness. Like it's basically a nut butter, but it's sesame, and it will elevate your meal. So definitely find a good tahini paste. A little bit goes a long way.
It's very pungent.
Yes. So we go through buckets of it, but for you only really need a small container and put it in the back of your fridge and it'll be good for a long time.
It's not cheap, but you'll see the little containers probably about yay big, like 8 to 10 ounces in it. They usually run about $5 to $8, but for what you're using it for, it probably lasts you a good month or two.
So basically it's just garlic, lemon, some water, jarred or canned roasted bell peppers. So some of them are like slivered, some of them are whole, some of them are half. Use your discretion. The pieces that we have listed here were for the slivers, wasn't it?
It was for the pieces. They were the pieces. Yes. So they sell them in the whole, they sell them in slice. Usually you see the slice on like Italian sandwiches and things like that. But we like to get the pieces or the whole.
And this is another one you're gonna have to taste a lot of to get the right balance for you. So some people like it more bitter, some people like it sweeter. This is just a guideline for you.
And always when you do the sauce, always eat it on something, because when you'll have the sauce, it might taste really foreign and weird. You're like, how is this gonna work? Put it on top of something, try a little bit with it, maybe like with a salad or something with a few greens. And you'll
some cucumber, something on there.
Because then that's when you'll get the full flavor. Because you're like, this is not going to go well at all together. And then once you put it on there, you're like, oh wow, that's actually really good. So
some salt, sugar, paprika, tahini, throw it in the blender. It's a little on the thinner side. You can do it thicker, just a little less water. We like it a little thin. It spreads better on like in the bowls. So just depends on what works for you better. Sometimes it might be a little bitter depending on the tahini you get. So add another bell pepper or two to help cut that down. It'll be sweeter. Go to the bell pepper first before you add more sugar. The bell peppers are naturally sweet and they'll definitely elevate your dish. All right, so we're gonna go over tofu. So I guess you can grab one of this one. So tofu is scary to a lot of people. I had a friend who posted this are you picky food eater? And someone said they'd rather eat snails than tofu. Give tofu a chance. I promise. You won't be, it sucks up any flavor you put it in. It's delicious and wonderful. Kroger carries it in their refrigerator section.
This is actually Kroger retail.
In the healthy section. So this is a good option for people at home who are just trying it. It's not one giant block. This is 2 blocks, so you only have to open one. So tofu, not scary, I promise. So I have 2 different recipes listed in here. We have the unpressed tofu and pressed. So when you buy a package of tofu, this is unpressed. Imagine you buy this and you're going to do a whole pack according to this recipe. So the best is firm or extra firm, and that'll be listed here. And it's the best for either one of these recipes. And a block like this is normally how much?
They range from like $1.30 to $1.79.
And this can feed a lot of people. I mean, maybe not us because we really like tofu, but you can put it in a lot of things. So the bibimbap tofu that I have listed on here, super simple. Sesame oil. You can do soy sauce, tamari if you're gluten free, soy or coconut aminos, whatever you want to do. You're looking for an umami sauce with salt. And we use coconut sugar. Now, we have coconut sugar here because that's mostly what we bake with, but it's got a really great molassesy flavor. If you really want to, you could probably use brown sugar.
It's a lot cheaper for brown sugar.
Yeah.
Coconut sugar can run probably 3 to 4 times more than what brown sugar can, but it does give a lower glycemic level, a little more. I think it gives a little bit more flavor to it.
So, if you like spicy, sriracha is always a good option. So, you want a nonstick skillet on medium heat. Put your sesame oil down and get your tofu and just crumble it with your hand. That's the way to do it. Spatula, you can stab it a little bit, pull it apart. You want crumbled. And you're gonna get all the moisture cooked out. Tofu sits in water. It's gonna need some time to cook out. That's gonna take 5 to 10 minutes ish. And then once it starts browning, that's when you add your soy sauce and your coconut sugar or whatever sugar.
Yeah, because if you put it in right away, you still got all that liquid and sort of dilute all that flavor.
Yeah. So then you're gonna leave it in there until the soy sauce cooks out and it starts to caramelize. This can be used in so many things. It's good on a salad. It's good on a bowl. It's good in fried rice. You can do it in a lettuce wrap, and it is a lot of protein.
And this texture right here is used a lot for like a substitute for like egg, because if it's got that crumbly kind of. A lot of people use it for like tofu scramble, things like that in the morning, and you can add different spices and flavors to it.
So now we're gonna go over the dreaded pressed tofu. So here's the thing about tofu. It is a blank slate. It needs your help to taste good. So a lot of things that we've mentioned before too. Meat also sometimes needs some help. You need salt and pepper. If you don't salt and pepper your meat, it is gonna taste like nothing. So you gotta season, salt and pepper your tofu or marinate it, or there's a lot of different ways to do it. I do a very simple recipe. You can also marinate it in a teriyaki sauce or different things like that, but let's go over the basics. Basically, this is unpressed tofu. You're gonna take it out and it's gonna be in liquid. Just drain it off and you'll have a block. You're gonna wanna cut it this direction. So it's two thin rectangles. You're going to get a tea towel or paper towel and lay them down and put something heavy on it. So you can do a book or like a cookbook or something that you don't mind might get a little wet.
They do make tofu presses, but that's what you eat a lot of tofu.
If you are a dedicated tofu eater, then spend the $20 on a good tofu press. But if you're not and you're just dabbling, just get a nice thick book, put it on top, leave it there to get all the moisture out for about 30 minutes. You can do 20 if you're in a hurry.
Yeah, or you can even put it in the fridge and let it do it overnight.
Yeah, do it before you're going to need it. So make sure you get as much moisture out as you can, pat it dry, and then you're going to cube it, toss it in some cornstarch because it'll get nice and crispy. Non-stick skillet, oil. You're going to want enough oil to cover the pan because you're doing a light fry. If you plan on air frying it, I would not recommend doing the cornstarch. You don't need the cornstarch. It just makes it really crispy, almost like a General Tso's chicken situation. Or you can just do no cornstarch and just salt and pepper. And it cooks up great. It'll have a nice crust to it. And just a light salt and pepper. Throw it in anything you want and it'll add so much. If instead you want to do something else, have your pressed tofu, and then put it in a marinade like we do like a soy, mirin, ginger, garlic marinade, and soak it overnight and then pan fry it. Or you can just do a bottled teriyaki sauce, whatever might work for you to make sure that you eat it. Definitely the way to go.
And the nice thing too is once you cook it and get the marinade, you can cook it and still keep it in the fridge for a while and just add it to things cold or even warm.
Yeah, we have a banh mi, a Vietnamese banh mi sandwich and a bowl. And I personally like it cold better than hot. Most people don't. I'm just a weirdo, but that's pretty obvious. But yeah, I like my tofu cold. It's got a nice texture to it, and it's got all the pickles and the veggies and everything, and it just works really well for me. But some people like it warm. It's got a lot more of an easier texture to cut with a fork. Tofu is not scary, I promise, and it's so cheap, and it's so good, and it's a slight elevation from just eating beans all the time. Which beans, I love beans, believe me. We use a lot of beans.
And that's another thing too, like with these bowls, a lot of times people are scared of like different beans or vegetables or anything like that because they've had it out of a can or they've just had it straight on a plate with no seasoning, no care to it at all. A lot of these things that you might have not liked at one time, might really like because it just wasn't treated the correct way for cooking it.
Yes, I will go mention a place that I ate at. I will not name names, but they are a burrito place, not here in Paducah, and they just threw a sad block of tofu on a pan and put it on my bowl, and it was the saddest experience of my life. So I get it. Tofu can be hard to enjoy if you don't know what you're doing. But these two recipes are a good start. Just take care of your tofu. and canned beans can still be a great way to use them. You just gotta put a little more effort into it. Like with the chickpea salad, the lemon juice, the fresh veggies, the parsley, it brightens it up. It adds a lot more. You can do a lot with canned. That kind of talks about that. I mean, maybe next time we end up doing something like this, we can talk about easy ways to use canned or frozen items or something along those lines. But we just kind of wanted to show you the basics of bowl making and how it is not scary, and it's a great way to feed people food that they might not normally like.
That's pretty much what we have to cover. So
Yeah.
I guess we're going to open up to questions.
We had somebody who wanted to know what the documentaries that you mentioned earlier were, what the names of those were.
Okay. Forks over knives. Like forks and a knife. That one was the one that got us to eating plant-based. It's very informative. It is not graphic in any way. Some of these documentaries, not the ones we list, can be a little much. But these three that I'm mentioning here, you should be fine. It's just a lot of information from doctors and different people who've eaten this way. But Forks Over Knives was the one way that we decided to go this way.
Yeah, they do a whole food plant-based diet, which is been proven over time that the most healthiest diets for like your heart and your blood and everything like that.
We do not do whole food plant-based. That is no oil, no salt, no sugar. Little too crazy for us. But we do have a few items that are whole food plant-based. You just have to make sure to ask, and then we can do that for you. But yeah.
But everything we do is plant-based. We kind of try to meet the middle because a lot of people, I mean, if you want, for like me personally, you need something that you can stick with. And when you go to an extreme, it's really hard to stick with it. And it's better to do slow steps in that kind of direction.
Because we decided to go vegetarian for 2 weeks. I went pescatarian to vegetarian after watching this documentary. And I was the meat eater of all meat eaters. Meat with cheese and bacon. But I haven't in a long, long time. What the Health? It has been a while since we've watched What the Health. We watch all the documentaries and they all kind of blend together. And that is like a food as medicine kind of documentary. These are all on Netflix, by the way. I think everybody probably has Netflix. And Game Changers, that's a newer one. And that one specializes in athletes or people that do high intensity workouts and how to eat plant-based and be thriving.
So, I mean, the most common misconception is like, where do you get your protein, or how are you going to have the nutrients? There's more protein in these bowls right here than you would find in a steak in a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, our black bean burger is like 16 grams of protein, and if you get double, it's like ridiculous. Yeah. Someone says that they love our cheesecake. Now, I've been asked many times to do cheesecake. I just want to tell you that I need to do cheesecakes. It takes like 3 days to do a cheesecake. So the crust is pecan and date crust, and then you have to form it, put it in a mold, put it in the freezer. Then you got to make the filling, which is cashews and coconut and a bunch of other stuff. And then you got to put that in there. It's got to freeze solid, and then you got to cut it and decorate it. So it takes 3 full days.
And if you do layers, you got to layer one, freeze it, then wait for that to freeze, then do another layer, whatever flavor it is.
But I can do like 3 dozen cupcakes in an hour. So that's the reason why I haven't done cheesecakes.
Another reason is we have a very small kitchen.
Yes.
And so we are hoping that will change sometime in the future, but right now we really only have like 2 prep tables. And in the morning with baking and cooking and anything's going on, we have to prioritize things that are faster than slower.
So the bakers come in really early, depending on how busy we are to make the bread and baked goods. So we're here at least 5 a.m. in the morning, and we have to get everything done before prep for the morning starts at like 10 a.m. So we're on like a crunch on that. So cheesecake's not conducive to that. I really want to do them again, but I cannot make you any promises. Somebody's asking about chickpea burger. Falafel burger, I think. So that's the falafel that we use in our falafel bowl. And it is literally just, we do dried chickpeas that we soak overnight. And then we blend that with parsley, green onions, cilantro, garlic, cumin, coriander, salt. And we just blend it really well in a food processor. And then you just leave it for a while. And then the natural proteins in the chickpeas help the falafel stick together so you don't have to add any flour or anything. And then we just throw it in the fryer or put it in a non-stick skillet with a little oil. You can bake it. Wasn't a big fan of it. I think it needs some sort of moisture.
It is, and that's one of the things too, you got to make sure you have a lot of sauce too, because it isn't dry, but it will dry out your mouth if you don't have a nice sauce.
Gut health, yes. Right now, well, everybody's stressed and our immune systems are just, it's a good thing to eat kimchi. It's always good for you. Kombucha, if you do kombuchas, vegan yogurt, whatever. And then of course, like things with vinegar is also very good. A lot of fiber makes your gut very happy. Are we going to make a nut-free cheesecake? So we've done a coconut cheesecake. Use like coconut butter. So some people have issues with coconut, some don't. It was also a pain to make. We've also tried baked cheesecakes, and we have not had any luck.
I mean, some have come out okay, but a lot of things we have to make things taste as good or better than regular like cheesecake.
Yeah.
And I mean that our cheesecakes that we make here, they're not like a normal cheesecake. So it's kind of hard to do a one-to-one. They are different, but yet kind of the same.
Yeah, it helps scratch that itch. Tips on picky kids. Now, I was a picky kid.
I was not. So I can't.
I was also a very picky adult. He was disgusted by my eating habits and forced me to try food. I think it's important to, as your taste buds change, to try food that you don't like often. And it's hard. Like, I'll say I didn't used to like avocado. I know, it's crazy. But I really tried to eat it at least once a month, even though I didn't want to just get used to it. And eventually my taste buds really liked it. It was the same thing with bell peppers. I didn't like a lot of food. And it just took the eventuality of trying it as my taste buds changed to like it. And which I know is hard with kids, because if you don't like it, then why do you want to eat it? I don't know. I mean,
I guess if you don't want to force anything, but you might be, I don't know, it's one of those things that you might want to be like a reward system. Be like, hey, come on, we're going to try this. You don't have to like it. You don't have to eat the rest of it. But just give it a shot. Yeah. And I don't know, try to come up with some game with it. That's really the only thing I can think of. I mean, we don't have kids, but I'm thinking as a kid, I can't say I ate everything. But
we were both fans of video games. And so like having like a reward system and like achievements to be like, I tried this food and there's like something to show that I did that. I would have been all about that.
Yeah, I mean, like that's a lot of the games now. Of course, it depends on their age, but definitely if they're in there like between probably 8 and 12 and they're starting to just play video games, they know all about achievements. So you might do something like, hey, try like 5 different new vegetables or 2 fruits that you haven't tried before in this month, and then you can get this, or you get something small or something that they know they enjoy.
Now the thing is some people will just not like certain things. Like I have tried, I don't like melons. I just don't like the texture. Now we make a watermelon poke bowl where we bake the watermelon. I like that, but I do not like raw melons. I don't know. He'll eat anything. Anything. All right. Our baked goods are moist and delicious. How do you make healthier desserts? Now, we are not good at making healthier desserts because I guess we do. I don't know. It just depends. Well, we use coconut sugar as most of our sugar in a lot of our baked goods, which is a lower glycemic sugar. It's still sugar, but it has a lot of nutrients and vitamins and minerals in it that aren't processed out, like glucanat, I think is what it's called, in regular sugar. We do flax as our egg substitute in like our donuts, so that is at least high fiber.
Applesauce.
Yeah, in our carrot cake, we use applesauce to make it nice and moist. We have a vegan egg for our regular cupcakes. Our almond butter blondies is just like coconut sugar, almond butter, flour, baking powder, salt. That's it. And that's like a fudgy brownie that's very high protein. One of our best baked goods that we've had forever since we started at Farmers Market all those years ago.
It's the only one that's stayed with us the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, we still use vegan butter. We still use sugar. I still got to get people to buy it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when people ask if it's healthy, I say it's healthier. If you're going to take a regular cupcake and you put it on a scale from 1 to 100 and say 100 is worse, that we're probably in the 80 to 75 range. Still not great, but better.
Yeah. So I did used to try doing it really healthy, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but when you do really healthy stuff, it doesn't sell. So we'll like to do things every once in a while that's super healthy, and we do have healthy options that you can mix and match and take things off. But as a normal, like we put out of it every day, we just make it healthier.
Egg replacer, flax egg. If you've ever heard of a flax egg, it's a tablespoon of flax. I normally do a heaping tablespoon of flax and 3 tablespoons of warm water, mix and wait. It's what we use in our donuts, and some of our cookies are oatmeal, frosted oatmeal cookie.
We also use it in our black bean burgers.
Yeah, and applesauce, of course. But our favorite egg replacer, we actually use an off-brand now, but was for cupcakes, is the Follow Your Heart vegan egg powder, and we use oat milk and the egg powder, and it works wonders in cupcakes. We also use it in our fry batter. So we make egg mixture that we mix in with our onion rings or our oyster mushrooms, mix it in with the egg, and then put it in our fry flour and fry it. It keeps it nice and crispy and delicious. I think that's about what I use.
Yeah, it's pretty much legit. The only thing is like the flax egg is the only, if you're trying to stay away from soy, because every other thing that we use as an egg substitute has soy.
Yeah. I've never used potato starch. Well, I mean, I like to fry my tofu in potato starch.
And we use it in our bread mixture too.
Yes, but I have never used it as an egg replacer. I can't imagine that wouldn't be good. Maybe not in baked goods, but as a fry. Is almond flour in the brownie? It is not. We use almond butter. So instead of using sticks of butter like you normally do with brownies, I can give you the recipe off the top of my head. For one 9x9 pan, it's a cup of coconut sugar and a cup of almond butter and a little vanilla, and you mix it in your mixer, and a little bit of oat milk, and a cup and a half of Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 gluten-free flour, and a teaspoon and a half of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, a quarter teaspoon of salt, and then you add it in there, and a little bit of oat milk, and you bake it, and you put chocolate chips. That's it. It's really simple. A lot of our stuff is very simple, but it's just taken us a long time to know the right texture, how long it needs to bake for, 350 for 13 minutes.
There's a lot of failures, and
Yes.
that's one thing when even trying this, you're like, if you do this at home and you make stuff, get ready to fail on some things. And the nice thing is when you do fail, you'll learn from it, because it's like, oh, well, I know that this is going to taste burnt and ruin the whole thing. So when you burn it, you're like, I don't need to do that anymore. You'll make sure to watch it a little bit closer.
Yeah. So, yeah, and there was a lot of failures. I was looking through my Facebook memories, and it's reminding me of times that I tried baking things. I tried a cashew butter cookie, and it was salted cashew butter, and it was awful. But you just gotta try. Problem is it can be expensive. Maybe go in on, buying some flour with a friend who also wants to experiment with you. But yeah, I mean, somebody's asking about the recipe that I just rattled off. I make it like 3 or 4 times a week. So just like the donut recipe, I could just rattle it off. I hope that you guys learned some stuff, and next time you come in, if you have any questions, me or Daniel can probably answer it for you.
Biggest thing we just want to get at this is that it seems overwhelming when you first look at it. When we first got, I remember we went to the grocery store and we lived off of naked juices and frozen meals for the first couple of
Amy's
weeks.
frozen meals, a lot. I still have some in the freezer every once in a while when I get desperate, but there's certain, like, the smell of a naked juice, like one of the juices at Kroger.
Brings me back.
Or a Lara bar, Like we ate those things religiously while we did not know what to eat.
And it's so much easier now than when we did it back in 2011. There's so many more products out. A lot of things that can scratch that itch if you are trying to stay meat free. Just like, oh man, I really could use some chicken nuggets, or I need something that tastes like a burger. You know, you can go to Kroger, you come here, you can do anything and just get that craving.
So I guess that's it.